What's going on, Philadelphia? Hello, everybody. It is the Barchard Show. Thank you for joining us wherever you are on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter. Thank you. As always, I'm John Barchard. That is Kyle Pagan, along with Gary Lay. We have got to find a way to get out of this Carson Wentz watch, guys. Yeah, I think it's going to kill us all by the time that it's said and done. It feels like Howie's screwing it up, then he's not, then he is, then he's not, then there's more drama. I feel like there is a fight that starts every 5 seconds on social media, through radio, through whatever, and nothing's really changed outside of that. You feeling that, Garrick? Is like, good Lord, I just get it over with at this point already. I don't think that Howie Roseman is going to be able to, find a way out of this, and we're all going to be complaining about a couple of second-round picks in the end.
Oh, I think it was funny the compensation was originally reported so high. I thought it would be done last week. I really did. And the further and further it gets down the line, I'm starting to think maybe it won't happen. Like, I don't know. I don't know where we all sit with this one. I mean, you're right. It seems as like people are clamoring for it, and I can't believe people are clamoring for it because I think they just want it to be over at this point.
Yeah.
Everyone would just start bracing themselves, so the compensation is probably not going to be that great.
Kyle, are we going to be wincing at the end of the week here?
All signs lead to it that we are. I mean, I cleansed myself this weekend. I think I was pretty much off of social media. It was kind of nice, refreshing.
You were off of social media the entire time?
Not the entire time.
Okay, but just most of the weekend.
A good amount.
I'm assuming no one really had any Valentine's plans this weekend, right? Just golf and betting and good times.
My backyard was an ice rink, like literally an ice rink. It was terrifying to walk outside. My
goodness, yeah, it was. Nobody went anywhere over on this end either. We'll
see if 6 months pregnant, you stay inside.
Yes, exactly. We're trying to see if there's any love lost between. I don't know where Carson and all this ends up. I just I want to ask this morning because. We've talked a lot in the past couple of weeks about drafting the run. You know who's going to end up being the quarterback at the end of the day is Jalen Hurts, and I think you start getting used to that. Like I think it's a good thing. I think Jalen Hurts being the future quarterback of this franchise is a good thing, and I don't think we've really asked that out loud. Like if he's the guy they build a bunch of weapons around him, doesn't seem like there's a ton of people that are jacked up about it, Kyle. Like it just seems like, okay, I guess we'll do this for now, and then we'll eventually see who the real Eagles quarterback is in the next year or two.
I agree 100%. I don't know, because I mean, it was, he goes out and beats the Saints, one of the best defenses in the league at the time, has that awesome 3 quarters against Arizona, and then he really didn't impress. I know Washington was a weird thing, but he wasn't overly impressive in that. He's only got, I was looking at his numbers real quick before this. I mean, 77.6% QB rating, 52% completion percentage. That's nothing to, get excited about. But I don't think it's also fair enough to do that after 4 games that this team was absolutely god awful. So the jury's still out at 6. I'd rather go weapon than go maybe Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. But
Gary, you still out on Jalen Hurts being number 1?
No, I think I've said 1,000 times now. If you're gonna move on from Wentz, it just has to be Hurts at this point. He's already have a year in. You saw some flashes. There's some concerning stuff with him, but again, it was 4 games. I don't put a lot of weight into that Saints game because he kind of won the game with his legs. I mean, the passing performance wasn't overly impressive. That was also just such a clear trap game for the Saints at the time. It was like their 3rd straight road game. They had a major opponent going forward, but I don't know. I guess I'm not super excited for Hurts, but I think he's the one who deserves to get his shot. I can't find the fumble numbers, but those fumble numbers were concerning too.
Yeah, and if the same arguments are true for Carson and like no one's going to look their best in this particular offense, I'm more excited to see what Jalen Hurts does, and I think he does have the starting job. I don't think they end up drafting a quarterback. I think they, and why would you at this point? You got to make a decision on loading up on one of these rookie contracts. I guess if you really want to restart it, you can do that and have a cheap backup at the same time. But I'm ready to see Jalen Hurts QB1, and really that's it. And it's nothing against Carson. It's nothing against the timeline of all this. I just want to get to that so I can actually be happy about it. Like, have something to look forward to instead of like, we're all sitting here with pitchforks. And I think if you sneeze, and if I were to say that on Twitter, everybody would say, how dare you, or what? Like, I don't know. I just want to be able to celebrate Jalen Hurts, and we aren't there yet. So we'll keep tabs on that. Joel Embiid's not going to be around for the Utah Jazz. They haven't looked particularly great the last 2 games, so we'll complain about Ben Simmons this week. I'm sure that's going to be coming around.
That'll be a hot button issue.
The one thing that Gary had this morning that I thought was rather interesting, and something that I really had a hard time, and I need your help with this too. So if you're listening, if you're watching right now live, get into the comments. Let us know that you. Oh, by the way, at the Barch Show at gmail.com, there too, if you want to throw in some of your suggestions as well. But Gary presented this to us last night, and I tried to come up with a list to basically defeat this, and I could not. So it's an interesting question because I got a lot of things about sports bubbles after this and where it's all ending up here. But Gary, why don't you tell us what you were the question you pondered to us late last night?
I've been actually trying to sell Kyle on talking about this on Water Boys for at least a week now, but I think me and Kyle might be the luckiest group of sports fans to live. Our generation has seen some of the best athletes and some of the greatest to ever do it. So the list I came up with was simple. I mean, let's start with the major 4 sports. I have Brady, LeBron, Crosby, and Mike Trout, even though he's kind of towards the end. But on those side sports, Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, and Rafael Nadal.
And Federer.
Yeah,
and Federer. And Djokovic. Like, I feel like we've seen guys who have transcended their sports, and we're not going to see it again. And I think this is almost going to be true for any age group where they think there's probably some guy out there who's like, no one will ever beat Tom Brady, or no one will ever beat Joe Montana's records. And then Tom Brady comes along and they're like, yeah, but like Montana never lost in the Super Bowl. So like there'll always be that caveat to it. But like I'm sitting here and thinking, I'm like, I think we've seen the best. Like you could make the argument, it's like, well, Nicholas has more majors than Tiger. And I was like, yeah, but no one had a run like Tiger Woods had. Like, I think we've seen the best to do it in almost every individual sport outside of hockey. And I could sit here and argue Crosby's a better player than Gretzky. It won't go over well, but I could argue it. But I think Kyle and I are extremely lucky in seeing what we've seen so far at age 29, 28.
So here's Montana's on this list too. And in context with, are you saying there's no way that anyone could have seen the best with Montana because Tom Brady's so much better than him?
Yeah.
I think that's where I guess completely disagree, is because if you had Montana throw as much as Brady, be as pumped up as much as Brady, be in a social media era as much as Brady, and just be constantly fed that Montana is the greatest of all time, and it doesn't matter what happened before. I think really that's the case. It's not necessarily that you're looking through a lens of these are the greatest athletes of all time that we're seeing, and no one is going to be able to match these guys. I think Elway, Marino, and Montana would all light this league the fuck up, because the old man yelling at a cloud argument to this is always, well, Brady never got hit like any of those guys too. Yeah, so well. Fair. That does matter. If you're telling these guys you're basically going to have a clean pocket with better athletes at pass rush and all that other stuff, I think they would fit in. Dion, I don't think we'll ever see a guy like that ever again. Bo Jackson, we'll never see anything like that again. Those two things,
running backs and defensive players were the ones where I struggled with. Now I can counter with Adrian Peterson, because that's probably the best running back we've seen, and then defensively Ray Lewis. I think we kind of went through the golden age of safeties, I would say, with Palomalu, Reed, Dawkins. I know I'm missing someone. We had Champ Bailey. It was weird, and basketball's tough too, because if you want to count Jordan to ours, it's kind of the tail end of it. That's why I used LeBron, and then of course wide receivers. Yeah, we have wide receivers. I mean, Jerry Rice obviously the best, but Owens, Moss, and Megatron. I think those three any day.
It's pretty ridiculous, and that's going to keep evolving. It feels like, right? There's going to be generationally it's going to keep happening unless we slow down evolutionary with like, I don't know, we're just not producing as many athletes as we once did before.
Look at DK Metcalf. Remember when those pictures came out? I mean, that guy looks like an ox. He's built like an ox.
Sean Oakman.
Well, and that's the thing, I mean, like, somebody just mentioned, I don't know if that's KOP Mike or not with the faux Micah Gregg or whatever is going on there, but that's what I'm saying. Like, isn't DK Metcalf, I'm not disrespecting Megatron in any regard, but isn't he the 2.0 version of him athletically in builds and in speed and all that?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's because he's basically the same size as Megatron, but like runs double the speed. Like, it is absurd. I mean, you're having offensive linemen come out running 4.4.
Yeah, well, right. And that's like, there has not been ever thought previously before, like, what, 1995, like, hey, maybe we should have linemen like run 5.1 or below. It was like stack as much as you can, because it was a running game, and now it's a passing game, and it's completely different and whatever. So,
well, let's be fair too before we get canceled on Twitter. Yeah. You have to say this if you're going to talk about the greatest athlete of all time.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
but Bill Russell has 11 championships.
Yeah,
I got. Let's just go ahead and say it for the 185-year-old guy who's listening. It's like, we get it, man. He has 85 championships.
Well, I'll say this out loud because we're talking about Tom and all this. Have we seen the last of the dynasties, essentially? That's one thing that I thought of, because if this ends up moving forward with, finally the NFL and the players saying, like, wait a minute, the NBA and everybody else has had control of where they want to be at all times, anytime. And if Deshaun Watson, and between that and like Kirk Cousins getting the guaranteed money, this kind of pushes it forward. Are we in danger of never seeing those type of dynasties again? Because we have, you're talking about, like, yes, there's all these major great athletes, and in the individual sports, it's hard to argue because they have titles. But when you bring up Mike Trout and all these other different players that are outstanding and amazing and don't have banners to fly, I don't know. It seems like it's gonna be a hard time outside of basketball to have that dynasty aspect again.
Well, I mean, you had Pittsburgh, who won 2 straight cups at one point, and then they got back, and I think they got close to a third. But no, I agree with you, John. I think it's going to be very hard for anyone to have like a level of dominance where they're winning. What is it? 3 and 5 years is considered dynasty. Is that's what it is. I think that's a thing of the past.
By the way, there's Mike from KOP saying Hurts blows. Let's go Justin Fields. And I want to see the QB factory start up there.
That's rooting for chaos. He is the Joker at this point.
Outstanding.
Here we go.
Oh yeah, and by the way, heck, Philly, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for chiming in, Ben. Yeah, Randy Moss over Jerry right there, just an athletic ability, right? Like, I think there's just, it just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving. Is my next question off of that, and is anyone going to give a shit? I see this this is starting to happen over the last couple of weeks, and I know everybody's kind of poo-pooed the Super Bowl ratings, and everybody's looking at like esports and going like, that's nothing to worry about, and everybody's looking at all the on-demand platforms, and we're watching things and absorbing things in completely different ways. Be like, oh, we don't have to sit around a fucking television like a campfire and just kind of do whatever. And I'll even say this, post-pandemic, are we going to be as interested in sports as we are now? Like, the live part of it, absolutely, but are we going to want to sit there and watch sports again? And I say no. I say this is the beginning of the sports bubble kind of popping here and it fading out, because you don't have as many people covering it anymore. You're losing jobs in there left and right. I mean, like, I hate to say it, but radio and everything is all kind of figuring itself out and has been on that way for a very long time. So, like, I don't know. Do we expect, even though there's a ton of greatness and athletes are going to keep progressing and do amazing things further and further, is anyone actually going to care at the end of the day?
Are there too much sports?
Are there too many sports? Are there too many things? That's what I'm saying.
I try to watch college basketball. It's a terrible product. And it's only gotten worse over the last couple of years. And with no fans, it's tough. College football is great, but with no fans in the stands, it's been really tough. The NBA product that's been tough to watch as well. If it's outside of the Sixers, I have no interest. And they're the most marketable stars in their probably the most popular athletes, I would say, because from a standpoint of being able to be recognized and whatnot. But I think football will stay king.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the $10 billion in TV deals that are probably going to come out in the next year are going to make that. But yeah, I mean, with the NBA, with baseball, I mean, everyone always talks about how they have just a marketing problem and whatnot. Who says their numbers, their TV rights deals numbers, do anything next time coming around? I mean, it's interesting. I think we might have too many sports.
Well, it's interesting you say that because they did this whole thing yesterday talking. I didn't know Michael Jordan bought a NASCAR team.
Yeah,
so Michael Jordan owns a NASCAR team, and so does Pitbull now. So they were talking about this. I mean, it's Darryl Waltrip and Mike and Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer talking about Michael Jordan and Pitbull, and they're saying Clint Boyer is essentially sitting there saying this is exactly what NASCAR needs. We need people to come in and pay attention to the sport because NASCAR is still I think one of the highest rated in terms of spectator sports. So they've really been hit.
Someone's got to explain that to me, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you ever really look at the science of what NASCAR is, it's actually kind of fascinating how Jesus it all works.
Christ, the science of it is so fascinating. Yeah, I get it. That's not why we watch sports or
I know I'm saying, but what is actually happening during, I mean, I know it's aesthetically a bunch of guys turning left going 200 mile an hour, but if you they've done a very good job over the last few years of explaining what's going on and why people are doing this. So I guess I have a little bit more appreciation. I also watch 5 NASCAR races a year. My dad was just a huge racing guy, so for some reason I still kind of care. But especially if it's Daytona 500, although I do hate when they race it at night, although that was all because of weather. But
see how he just spirals all? It's just
well, I mean, it was just I couldn't.
1 year.
This is
yeah.
Everyone always hates this weekend for sports. I always kind of like it because you have they play Pebble Beach and then Daytona happens. So it's the week after Super Bowl. It's completely different. You can just digress from football, and it's the perfect flip. You can watch football and you can watch golf.
And here's the other part of this too. And I'm not saying that it's going to be ultimately successful, but I just see where everything's going. So did you guys hear about the fan-controlled football league that got started this weekend? There's a bunch of clips going around with Johnny Manziel, and he's basically playing a 7-on-7 indoor arena league. But
the worst names of football teams ever.
But it's all fan controlled. So they're that's what they vote on. They're like, nope, you're the Glacier Boys, and you're this, you're that. You're literally, I checked it out. You're calling plays for them to run in real time. It's pretty cool. And they're detailed plays. It's you run the 987, double smoke, all this. It's like playing Madden in real life and seeing, oh, there he is. Yeah. There's Andrew checking in right now. I wanted to see it just to see what it's all about. And man, if 15-year-olds, if that's successful and you're going to see 10 or 11 different spinoffs and you can gamble on it, forget it. That's I think gambling ultimately, it always has been anyway, and that maybe I'm just been so naive to it. Gambling is the new sport, and that's what's kept up, I think, a lot of ratings in football and baseball and all this other stuff. So you see everyone steering towards gambling and esports, and I think it's pretty crazy, including the 76ers, including all these other different avenues. So I think sports franchises are scared and getting FOMO that sports is going to go away. So that's why they're kind of jumping on all this stuff. But it's insane of how it's going to continue to evolve because what's the next thing to surprise us? Have we seen it all in sports? Essentially, we're just watching different people hit these accolades. And if it's not progressing, who's going to break Drew Brees' touchdown record or passes or any of that stuff, I'm sure somebody's going to come down the line because, I mean, isn't football heading towards 7-on-7 anyway? Jesus, you can't touch anybody. So I don't know.
Bring back steroids.
Have to, right?
Yeah.
Playmakers.
Yeah, it's a good question too. And no, this is just Micah. So I apologize for all the mix up back and forth. I would never diminish Mike from KOP's name and yours either. So I don't even know how you would create odds if everyone's calling the plays, and maybe that doesn't end up happening ultimately. But a football created league where you're betting on if it's a run or pass or more specific from that, we're basically doing that already. So.
But what's to stop me from harnessing the power of the internet and be like, all right, guys, everyone just vote for them to run it up the middle for every single play of this game.
Nothing.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like you could skew these lines. Like, you want to talk, that's the future of it, is how can we beat the traditionalists? You can go right back to Wall Street, be like, how do we beat these guys? If I can harness the power of Reddit, I can ruin a football game for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to run 83 belly 83 times, and the score is going to be 3-6.
Exactly.
Everybody's right.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's just, I find it fascinating. No,
so
like
John,
that,
explain a little bit more. Like, is it just one person who takes over and calls the plays, or is it like, okay, this is John's turn. Okay, now it's Karen's turn.
You get a selection of plays thrown at you, like you would see a Madden chart. Everyone votes on what the best play is out of that chart, and they go with the percentage of it. So, like, the one I can't remember, but the one team literally threw verticals.
It's perfect
for 2 or 3 straight series, and I goes,
or verts would be my all-time play call.
Well, and here's the great thing, and oh, my bad, I clicked on the wrong one there. I need a Waterboys team. Guess what? We can literally do that. If we have 150 grand, we can own a team right now.
Yeah.
Or you can buy in and be like an actual owner for $150.
You guys want to see my Venmo's open if anyone really wants to work on this.
But the only reason why I bring this up in between, like, the bubble and all that, like, first of all, yes, I absolutely think we should have a football team. And what would our record be if the three of us ran it together?
16-0 if I was running it.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Because we're running 83 belly 63 times.
We're going to bring it back old school football. First of all, I would show up to the team meeting. I'd take the playbook and throw it in the trash and be like, all right, boys, here's my high school wing tee playbook. We're running it.
You see this thing? You see this thing? That's how thin my playbook is, guys. Right here. Yeah.
Run it.
Would you wear a suit on the sidelines?
He's a total suit guy. Oh,
I wouldn't wear a suit to my child's christening if I didn't have to. I would never wear a suit for the rest of my life if I could. If I could show up in sweatpants and a sweatshirt, I'd be ecstatic.
I would. I think Kyle, we have to make Gary wear a suit if we own a football team together.
Yeah. You guys want to see someone drop out of an ownership group? Make me wear a suit.
How much would it cost, or how much ownership percentage would it take for you to wear a suit?
99%.
99%, and then he wears a pursuit. Once again, that's okay. Me and Kyle can be the 1%. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah, that's
I'll just
totally
roll with an iron fist over you and argue that, and I'll just say, hey, listen, I'll give you guys $1,400 every 6 months. You can pay your bills with that.
I always wanted to be a team owner.
Yeah. So if there's if you're listening to this, let us know, thebartshow@gmail.com or at the Waterboys, just on Twitter and all social media, IG, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to create a football team, let's do it. That's what I'm saying. Like, how many opportunities do you have to say you can go create a football team? If you all are serious about it, and we can, can I tell you an idea? Mm-hmm. I've always wanted to create a podcast that was just alternate Eagles. Like, from this point forward, if we, the three of us, made decisions, and in an alternate universe like Madden, we just kind of sim it, like, and just always have at least a little bit of happiness. Do you think that would be a good idea for us to do?
I mean, you're bringing back Coach Gary, essentially. We tried this. We tried this
in Madden, yeah.
The problem was PJ was so bad at Madden that the product was so terrible. Yeah. We ran the ball every time because PJ just threw interceptions.
Unbelievable.
If we were into the alternate universe, Carson Wentz would have a lifetime contract.
Yeah. I was also the general manager and signed him to like a 25-year deal. So
man.
And the offensive line we would never work on the offensive line because it's doing just fine.
No, remember we traded for Quentin Nelson. We
did. We got Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
We shored up the line.
I shored it up. I just paid him so I didn't have to worry about him.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to see if there's a football team in our future. We'll have to see if there's kind of anything else coming from Wentz Hurts the rest of the week as it goes along here. I don't know. Are we looking forward to anything in particular? Like, this seems like a ho-hum kind of sports week for me.
Oh yeah, I think it's always the first one after the Super Bowl is kind of ho hum. I think February. I was born in this month. I think it's I don't think it's probably 12 out of 12 in terms of months for me. But
we're sitting there. Everyone, I feel like the argument used to be, it's like, hey, we just wait till March Madness. And as soon as March Madness over, baseball's back. You guys really care about baseball coming back? I know I do.
Not at all.
But I don't think the majority of the people do anymore. I think what everyone wants baseball back just because it usually means warm weather's coming back as well. Yeah. I think that's what baseball really signifies more than anything, right?
Everyone's always going to be happy with opening day, but like Kyle, I don't know if you're like me. I'm not buying into the Phillies at all again. I'm not going through the same
team plus Archie Bradley.
Yeah, thank you. And Bamboo Brad. Let's be fair here.
I forgot about that one.
But outside of that, like I am wake me up in August when the team's not a disaster, I guess. And like when Joe Girardi can show me that he's better than Gabe Kapler, I'll be interested. And I think that's the majority of everybody else that feels that way too, right?
Well, it's also like baseball is a great in-person sport. Like I want to be in right field, and I want to be sitting in the bleachers, and I just want to be, a couple beers deep in the right field bleachers or right field stands and enjoy some baseball on a Sunday.
That I could see, and this is, Gare, to my point, don't you think ticket sales and everyone wanting to be in a stadium is going to shoot up like crazy?
Yeah, so actually when we were talking about this bubble thing, I think you guys were saying like, hey, it's going to eventually drop off. I think when the pandemic ends, I think you're going to see a 2 to 3 year spike in sports, and then it'll start pattering back down again. I think what we did was we made people realize that how much you kind of are dependent on it, and when it's available to come back to you, you're going to be like, all right, I need to do this. Like, I need to do this. I need to do this. Because if it goes away again, it's going to suck. And then after 3 years, just be like, I don't need to go see the Flyers play the Predators on a Tuesday night. I don't need to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'll eventually kind of like go back down, but
I agree with you.
I know I'm clamoring to go. Like, I'm dying to go. I have a weekend scheduled Mets Phillies at Citizens Bank Park at the end of May. So like, I want to go to all 3 games, but we'll see what happens.
Well, and for you especially, like you, you want to dunk on the Phillies so bad. I need the Mets and Phillies to be good so we can argue.
That's always been my thing. That's always been my thing. Kyle and I always talk about this. I want the Phillies to be good because the baseball is only important in Philadelphia if 1, the Phillies are good, and 2, they have a good rivalry, and it has to be the Mets. Like, you can say there's a contrived rivalry between the Braves and the Phillies, but let's all talk. It's all Mets. We want Mets Phillies rivalry. That's what we want.
Yeah, Terry Pendleton
made the end of the 2006, like the 2000 era, so great.
Yeah, if Terry Pendleton's still coming to the plate, absolutely. But like until then, yeah, it's long gone. And that's I guess to Mike and KOP's point, who's saying is baseball even a sport at this point? I feel that's
to
in
me it is.
major viewer. I don't believe we will see baseball on TV in the next 10 years.
Really?
I think it'll be its own thing like hockey, where it's very secondary because they're going to go through like that. Hockey just lost its main television provider again. So like, why would you go back to TV? I know ESPN is going to, has that been done, by the way? I heard rumors that they were finally going to sign a deal with ESPN, but I don't know if that was just.
I don't know. I know the NFL and the NHL in general isn't overly happy with ESPN, how it originally went down, but I guess you really can't have a principal stand if you have nowhere to go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they had to sell the conferences to a bunch of companies so that they could stay, more liquid and stuff because they were obviously being hurt during the pandemic. But yeah, I mean,
Kyle, have you ever seen international hockey?
The KHL, it's bigger, right?
Like, no, not even that. It's like the ice. Like they sell advertisements in the middle of the circles. Like it's literally like they're skating on a NASCAR.
Yeah, and that's why I keep coming back to is because like the NBA and the NFL will always do well on TV. Like that's just implemented on that. But baseball and hockey probably won't, and that's going to be an ongoing thing for a long time. So like the 4 major sports might just be 2 major sports, and then not mid-majors, I guess is what we'll call it. The other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kyle.
No, you go ahead. How long do you think until we're watching Sixers, Flyers, Phillies on Peacock? I mean, with them, like NBC Sports, the channel, is that going to be around in 10 years?
Attrition needs to set in for that to happen because everyone will continue to cut the cord, and then, if anyone's paying attention, I'm sure you have to be. Cutting the cord for much longer is not going to be cheaper than just having cable because they're just coming out with a new streaming service every week. Like, oh, if you want to watch this set of shows, you have to have this streaming service.
And then
we know what you're doing. Disney already started. It's like, oh, you want to watch Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN?
No problem. Here you go.
At this price,
$21.99 a month or whatever it is, or
you still got to pay $150 a month to Comcast just to have freaking internet. It's crap.
I do respect that we finally made it to Back to the Future 2, except it just took us about 20 extra years to get
I
to
don't
it.
have
Though.
a hoverboard, so
Yeah.
I'm still
Or-
out on the hoverboard.
Or my shoes. I still have to tie my shoes. So
Yeah. And this is a little more galaxy brain, and you know me, I love to put the tinfoil hat on. But this is in part to the conversation from last off season in terms of like galaxy braining Jalen Hurts and why the Eagles might end up drafting him. And the simplest answer we found out, by the way, they don't like their quarterback. That's pretty much it. But on top of that, you're noticing it even now. So no one's really sure about this incoming quarterback class. There are, I just mentioned fan controlled football. You still have The Rock that's going to open up the doors next year as well with the XFL. College football, college sports in general took the biggest hit out of all of this. I think we understand that, but I don't think we understand how that impacts kind of the future of like the NFL and the NBA.
Mhm.
So there's also another big leap that you're taking off the table, because just like I'm not hyped about March Madness, and I haven't been hyped about March Madness in the last couple of years, by the way. So like all this stuff that's been happening pre-pandemic, and now it's kind of shoving its way in here. I don't know. I think there's going to be a talent pool that's missing for the next couple of years too, and a lot of stuff that ends up just going underneath. And you're going to see a lot more individual leagues and minor leagues and stuff like that.
I still think you'll have your big guys, like your Michigans, your Bamas, your Clemsons, and whatnot with the name, image, and likeness thing. Because I think individuals can make money at those kind of schools. But you go to like a Louisiana Lafayette, who was like a top 25 team all year, the Raging Cajuns. Like if you got like one of your best players on there, would you rather go make $100,000 and some in the XFL, or drive on a bus to games, or drive on a coach plane to games and whatnot for college, and risk not even having a career after what's all said and done. So
I think you make a fascinating point though with the name and likeness. I think the first college program to figure out how to be like, hey, how can I market my players and be successful? I mean, we really think Nick Saban's going to be the guy to figure that out. I mean, he might have hired somebody to be like, you figure this out and let me just coach football. But
Did you see
I think
his-
that's
did
like
you
an
see his-
interesting advocate there, Kyle. Like if the first program to figure that out might become the next Alabama. Now, the other thing with college football is there is no parity. They need to figure something out with college football. And I hope this can be it.
Well, you got to create it first. You got to have the opportunity for parity, and they don't do that. They vote on like the best. We don't know who the fourth best college team is. We really don't. We just throw.
It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter because they just get their ass kicked by the best team.
You're not wrong, but also like the opportunity to have that happen. Make Alabama play a third game and see what happens for parity, or whatever. But you're right. What I think could be interesting, and you see it with make it a series, absolutely. But if you're looking at
kids' brains,
if you're looking at Carson Wentz's alma mater with at North Dakota State and the powerhouse that they've kind of built outside of being a regular FBS school. That's where that would work the best, don't you think? And just be like, no problem, man. We're going to make you the front cover. We're going to make sure you're part of the Heisman series, the new NCAA football game by EA. Like you're right. If you can hybrid the XFL and whatever the new NCAA rules are,
that's the thing too. And this goes back to esports, where it's like, wouldn't you love to see Jalen Hurts play Deshaun Watson when they were both Clemson and Alabama in NCAA college football 2021, 22, 14 even? Like that's going to be a thing too. I think a lot of these guys are going to have not content companies, but they're going to make content and be able to remember that UCF kicker who was like a YouTube vlogger or something like that. And he made $100,000 off of like YouTube, and he couldn't get it because he would have forfeited his scholarship to UCF and whatnot.
Yeah. And now you can, I guess you can do that too, which is like, it's insane that you couldn't even vlog and make money.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like having a liquor store and having a beer distributor in two separate places.
Oh, you listening up, Quakers?
The world's stupidest rule.
Like sometimes rules are
never moved to
draconian,
Pennsylvania.
and need to be rehabilitated rules and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's it'll be. I'm really curious how that ends up playing out overall, because there's certainly a way to correct all of this, and I think it does for maybe the 3 or 4 years. But man, if there's an opportunity, like you said, Kyle, to go make $100,000 right away,
yeah,
and it's something that the big baller brand pushed for a long time ago, and we're going to start our own league, and everybody thought it was ridiculous, and now it's not so ridiculous anymore. So
absolutely not.
we're gonna have to see where that ends up.
I mean,
Do
when
you think we're
Menzel,
partially to blame, though?
One more time.
Do you think we're partially to blame for this, though?
In what way?
I was thinking about this. It's like we always get mad at these outlets, like the professional athlete. We get mad, like we can go back last week with me being frustrated. Hey, you signed a contract. You should honor your contract. Like, is it us that's like, hey, I think everyone should just be able to get whatever they want whenever we want it? It's just that instant gratification everyone has now. Like, when's the last time a professional sports league made a decision that everyone universally liked? And I think this name and likeness is probably the last thing that's correct, right? They did something right. I feel like the NBA was on a string there for a while, being like, hey, we're doing the right things. I mean, baseball hasn't made a right decision in what, ever?
30 years? I don't know.
I mean, football, this doesn't get talked about enough. I mean, basically, football cannibalizes its own players. They sign this 10 more years of labor peace where the guys at the top continue to be able to do what they want. But the guys at the bottom are like, well, I'm just going to go along with this because I'm only going to have a 5-year career. And I need to make as much money as possible in this 5 years. Like, I think the NFL is especially at this offseason, is going to be, the start of this player empowerment. Like, it's going to get closer to, by the end of this labor agreement, getting back to a work stoppage, because I think the players are going to be like, no, you need us more than we need you, which is true. And they're going to be like, we don't essentially what the NFLPA has done is like, hey, listen, our players don't matter. You can cut them at any time, and it doesn't matter to you, the owner, but it matters to the player. Like, it's John Kincaid was talking about this, and he was a lot more eloquent, obviously, because he's actually on the radio. But it was
first of all, that has nothing to do with eloquence, just from
he talks a lot more than I do. But he was explaining it in a way, and I'm like, this is actually kind of fascinating, and I actually would like to explore it more with him at one point. So maybe we'll try and grab him back on at some point. But I think we live in this world where it's like we want everything done so quickly, and like everyone's like, this is wrong, it needs to be changed now, and everything's not designed to change fast.
Well, isn't that a problem?
It is. But that was like the other thing, like when people get upset with the government, it's like, well, the government was designed to move slowly. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like it's the philosophy of the world changing to where initially we're like, we'll move everything slow, so we're coming to the right decision.
And I guess
everyone wants it done so fast.
It's because this is sports, and we have it's 1 degree of change. So that's right. I think that's why we end up being so passionate about it in the first place.
You can see it playing out every Sunday or every day. You can see it playing out. Be like, hey, if you just made this simple change, it would be so much better. Like, listen, I don't love the DH rule, but I fully understand that if you put the DH in the National League, you just have a better product.
Yeah,
so do it.
And by the way, I'm not yelling at you for Jalen Hurts. I'm yelling because my wife's first stimulus check hasn't showed up. That's really the reason. Right. To that effect, it's just like, yes, I'm that passionate about it because I'm right. I want to be right about this particular thing, and that's why we demand change. And by the way, some of this crap, like you bring up the DH rule, that's not like, why aren't things happening quickly? That's should have happened in 1970 when they announced it with the White Sox and whoever else and pushed it.
The fact that they didn't do it this year after giving it for 1 year, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Now what? That's what I mean. Like how and with
I don't need to watch Jacob DeGrom bat. Yeah. I don't need to see it. I don't need to see DeGrom bat. I know he rakes, but I don't need to see it.
It's funny because like you'll know. The music industry, for instance. I'm gonna go over there for 1 second.
Oh sure.
Technology.
Hall of Fame they own.
Well, that too. Oh, come on. You're gonna compare Hall of Fames when baseball Hall of Fames.
Oh, I know. Like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Change your name.
I know. They actually almost allowed Dave Matthews in there. That's how bad it is.
Can't let that.
So you're wrong. Here. They win the fan vote. Then the next year they're like, oh, we're afraid of the Dave Matthews Band fans, so we're not even gonna put him on the ballot.
Kyle, mark that down. We gotta fight about that because I just for the record, I cannot stand that Dave Matthews is getting a lick into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Geez.
Oh, but Jay-Z gets one?
Yes,
doesn't sing rock and roll.
Save it, Kyle. We got to ring the bell on this one because I could go on for an hour. But
we'll say the music industry, yeah.
So like if you noticed, when music first started, it's all just one track. Everybody's playing on the same thing. Then the Beach Boys kind of come along. There's multi-tracks. Ray Charles comes along. There's multi-track. You're like, ooh, technology and music kind of went together. It's doing the same thing. Sports refuses to do that. Refuses to do that. That's why baseball is struggling in the way it is. It doesn't go in the way of technology like a lot of things do, like everything, business.
Why don't we have chips in the football? Why do we still have line? Why do we still have a chain gang to come out and measure?
Why? When there's sensors and lasers and you're worth billions of dollars, we can now track to see how fast people are running on the field. In golf, in baseball, and wherever, there's a computer line that follows you to where the balls go. Like, there's so many things. The reason why we're losing people in sports and why we think that there possibly could be a bubble is because no one wants to move further. They just want to be where they want to be, and they'll always come back to us. That's always been sports' philosophy. This is the first time that now, plus pandemic technology and everything else, you're going, oh shit, they might not come back. So yeah, I think sports are going to change pretty dramatically in the next 10 years, whether for good or bad. Like there's got to be a decision here. So,
well, it's also funny too, because we had this conversation where we keep alluding this conversation on the Woodard Hazard, the golf podcast that we started as well, that like golf's done a very good job of kind of embracing technology. And now all of a sudden the USGA wants to roll the equipment back so the guys can't hit the ball as far. And it means nothing. Like,
yeah, right.
If Rory hits it 350 with this driver and they roll it back, he's still going to hit it 300 with the next driver and be 50 yards longer than everybody else. It's not the technology; it's the advancement of the athlete.
Yeah,
like it's almost like,
well, it's both.
When you
it's
say
both.
The chips in football, like I'm like, yeah, it's a great idea, but it would really change the aesthetic of the game if you think about it. Like it would just change like the way it looks.
Probably speed it up.
I'm saying you're just used to like seeing it.
You think
you would see the tradition of it, John? That's all.
You think you give a shit about the guy on the chain gang or because
I
he's
don't,
going to get run over?
It's one of those things where it's like you're gonna like I'll be watching 10 years from now and I'll be sitting there with my son, be like, wow, like they used to walk out there and measure it with literally 2 posts and a chain, and he'd be like, what?
Yeah,
but
and
you're like, oh, it was just like kind of a cool thing.
The fact that Gene, the fact that Gene slid a fucking note card in between Kyle's point, it's absurd. It's absurd.
I understand.
Like,
the
it's sanctity of football, care.
It's just like it's people are like, well, you can have robot umpires. And I'm like, yes, you could, but like I don't have Joe West turkey gobbling back there saying strike 3, wearing white headbands or whatever it was, being like, you guys stop being mean to the umpires. Like then you lose every once in a while a ref transcends the game and becomes a legend himself, and you're gonna lose. You're ready to give that up?
Yeah, no. I'm. That's why when people are, it's so weird. As I say that, I never want like computer refs, umps, or anything. That's what go on YouTube and the things that go on YouTube. Who am I talking to? Hey guys, there's this new website called YouTube.
What's up, guys?
But
what's up, guys? Barchard here.
When I'm on YouTube, most of the things I look up are those absurd sports highlight reels from whatever it is, whether it's like the most yards for a loss and it's 20 minutes. I'm like, I've never seen any of these plays. I'm going to go through it. So, but
the man was on the field.
The man is on the field.
Ed Hockley's biceps, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Lose that.
But
his son's chiseled too.
The thing that I'm most attracted to, I'm using so many bad words this morning. I love seeing 30 minutes of ejection calls. I love seeing 30 minutes of bad umping.
You see Wally Bachman when he gets thrown out? That's the best one. That's the best one. Yes. He throws all the bats on the field.
Love
the
it.
guy who crawls up behind and throws the rosin bag like it's a grenade.
That was awesome.
I mean, come on. The guy who literally steals second base, he's like, no, I'm taking this with me.
Yeah, I never want emotion taken out of sports because it leads to dumb things, and that's fun. That's entertaining. But
people want to get rid of fighting in hockey. Stop it. It's one of the best parts. Just let them fight.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say. Yeah.
Why is it the only sport where you can stop playing? 2 guys can have a fist fight legally, and you just never happened. Let's keep going because it can. That's why.
All right, I'm gonna give you a classic hockey guy argument, but I think if you went to the international ice, because Canada and USA, that's beautiful. That's like I would watch that every time. I would actually
We talked about this with Kincaid. Go to the international ice, and it's so much better.
Yep.
It's a better game. You would still have some hits, and they'd be open ice, so they're bigger hits.
But we'll have to. I don't know. We'll have to see where this ends up over the next couple of. Honestly, I think we'll have a good indication in the next year or two. Hope everyone's getting vaccinated, and so we can kiss each other and hoot and holler and do all that fun stuff. And
don't kiss me, John.
I do have an interesting point though out of Mike and KOP, who's been arguing in the chat about baseball is slow and boring, and then turns around immediately says it's all these kids with TikTok. It's a 20-second time span, and we're all sitting here with 20-second time span. So like it's got to be one or the other. But that's what I mean. You got to change with technology, not just be where the kids are at. Essentially, any last gripes before we get out of here? I just have one. Peppermint mocha. The cutoff after January is fucking absurd. I know it's a ridiculous thing, but like it's the only thing I look forward to in the morning is peppermint in my coffee. I can't find it anywhere else. Please, God, bring it back. That's all I'm asking. So, any gripes here, fellas, before we leave?
I think Carson Wentz stays until someone goes down in training camp, and then they unload him for what they thought he was going to get.
Paying that freight.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any gripes right now. Don't bring the amateurs back next year. Pebble Beach. It was a better tournament without them.
It was a good tournament. It was a great tournament this year.
It was good, but it was an awful field. Next week, unreal field.
We'll see you next Monday. Heck, thanks for checking us out and everybody else in there too. On that note, I know that you and Max and PJ love golf to death.
Well, I PJ not so much.
Yeah, PJ not so much. On the next episode that you guys do, I need to know who you're talking about. Because I haven't watched golf 5-6 years, and like you guys were so jacked up, I had no idea who you were talking about though. So we should do.
Oh, we're talking about Jordan Spieth most likely.
Well, yeah, Spieth and like a whole bunch of like tournaments that he's been in and stuff like that. So like we need to get you need to give us a little crash course because Kyle, have you watched any?
I listened to a couple. I'm a casual golf guy. I like it. It's a good podcast. Yeah, but I mean, I actually know a lot more about it than I lead on, but. I know who Daniel Berger was? No.
No idea.
Daniel Berger looks like Xander Schauffele. It bothered me all day. I was like, I keep thinking Xander Schauffele. Well, me and Max are in a golf pool too. So like Max follows it a lot heavier than I do, and I follow it relatively closely. But Max follows it like we follow the Eagles. It's crazy. It's Max's thing.
I'm just trying to say, like, you guys get me jacked up about golf, and it's making me want to go, like, check it out a lot more. So
you should check it out.
I appreciate you.
Let me tell you something. Live betting fairways, most electric thing you'll ever do.
Yeah.
Well, that's what
the future of sports is. Live betting fairways.
Is there a way we can do that on a stream together while we're watching?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure we can.
All right, let's mark that down.
The Masters is going to be tough because I have this weird, stupid thing called a baby shower on that Sunday. I'm still trying to figure that thing out.
No. So, you want the baby shower, trust me.
Well, I know I need the things, but I don't really want it to be on that day. So we'll figure that part out. But I actually think if we can get it all working, the players, we should do it for the Players Championship.
Ooh, and that's only like 2 or 3 weeks
away. Oh, I love the U.S. Open.
I'm big on any major, or mid major, I guess.
I'm gonna publicly clamor for John to figure this out. Okay. I think you have the power to do this. Can I just get 2 press credentials to the Lord of Trust? It's in Liberty National.
Internet, do you hear that?
Yes.
We have a job to do.
Get me press credentials. I will make you love golf. Let Max and I talk to the players. Also, no players allowed on the podcast till Bo Hostler comes on. I don't care if Tiger Woods calls and says, "Hey, I want to come on." Be like, "Sorry, buddy, you got to get me Bo Hostler first." I would assume Hostler comes on in a second. If Tiger says he's like, "Hey, come on," so I can go on, but
I would like I would like to know Bo. Anybody that's named Bo.
He's a very average golfer that I've decided to take a rooting interest in.
That sounds like Philadelphia. So I'm in.
The cut, baby.
Thank you again to everybody listening in live. Thank you for subscribing to the podcast wherever you're out there on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and the rest of it. Leave us some 5 stars. Leave us some good reviews on the Waterboys feed. And as always, Kyle and Gary can point this out to you as well. I'm finally all set up, ready to go in Last Out Media Studios. So I'm going to be doing the stream here every single Monday, and hopefully we ramp up and do some more. Kyle and Gary might be able to join us for a few of those once once things once actually speaking of baby showers and all that stuff, maybe we should have a Last Out Media type of baby shower for the both of us or something like that. We need,
Sure.
I mean, like, yeah, that'd be fun.
I need things.
Also, the Amazon registry, Gare, if you're not on that already, so it'll save you so much time.
That's the wife's department, John.
But if you or any podcaster, any streamer, any broadcaster are looking for a home, somebody to make you a little better, somebody to make you sound better, certainly go check us out, lastoutmedia.com, and I am happy to coach you up to make sure that you sound the best you can, or just to lay some really smooth voiceovers for your podcast and stuff like that. Lastoutmedia.com. Thank you again to everyone, including Stateside Vodka. Use promo code WATER, WOODER, for 10% off of those wonderful big boys, and put that shit from Austin away. Buy from Philadelphia and Philadelphia only. StatesideVodka.com. We will see you next Monday, live streaming, and hopefully have some even more fun news, like Carson Wentz being a Detroit Lion as well, or something crazy like that.
That would be
First round pick for it.
For Coach Gary, for Kyle, I'm Barchard, and as always, thank you for tuning in on the Waterboys podcast feed right here on the Crossing Broad Network. We'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye.